Welcome back to another episode of WEtv. This week we're going to be talking about how money can buy you happiness. It's all about what's actually important to you and how to allocate it. We all have money, so let's start having some fun.
Finn, one of the things that you do when you're floating around the world is you give a lot of keynote, and you are an amazing speaker. I've seen you speak quite a few times, and a lot of your presentations are around money and happiness. So, age-old question, can money buy us happiness?
So I actually have a keynote called How Money Can Buy You Happiness.
Can?
And it actually can. And there's a few reasons why I introduce it as that title. It hooks people in. It plays on some of the sayings that have been used before, and it starts making people think a little bit. And I actually open up that keynote with pretty much this line that there's a lot of rich people in the world who aren't happy, and there's a lot of happy people in the world who aren't rich. Wouldn't you rather be both? And people start going, yeah, I actually would like to be rich and happy. And when I think of what rich and happy means, I believe that's what wealthy is. That's my definition of wealthy, when you're actually rich and happy. And it's not about saying one's more important than the other. It's that these days, with money being such an important part of our system and how we live, that we need to actually address both of them. It used to be that if we didn't have money, you'd be able to still survive because we would have our community, we would have farms, there was ways we could actually still live without money. These days, if actually the money system shut down overnight, within 24 hours, we would be really challenged. Like, think how many times you use money to live on your basic things, whether it's getting a glass of water, whether it's ordering some food, whether it's getting an Uber somewhere. I don't know, we can't really live about it.
I've seen Mr. Robot. I've seen this unfold.
Yeah, exactly. And I always laugh when people say they don't really care about money. I get them to do a little exercise where for the next 24 hours, just actually write down in a notebook every time you think about money, and it will surprise you. It's there all the time. Oh, can I afford to do that? Should I do this? What about that? And it all comes down to money. So that's really the starting point of the actual keynote.
Okay, so you've convinced us now that we all think about money all the time. Mm-hmm. What next?
So what next is starting to identify how money is part of our life, and where is it potentially contributing positively or where it's detracting, and what is the optimal amount of money for your actual lifestyle. So the next part of the keynote is actually sharing how I went on this journey where I had incredible financial success. I made a lot of money, thought I was living the dream lifestyle, and then 18 months down the road, I was divorced. I'd lost a lot of money. I was really depressed, and even though I still had a lot of financial assets compared to the everyday person, I felt like I was really poor because my measurement of success, and it's weird, I didn't think it was my measurement of success. If you'd asked me, I would have said, I don't really care about money. I care about how many people I impact, and down that path. It actually, in a way, it was the measure of my success because it's easily quantifiable. So I bring up this concept of the personal balance sheet, financial balance sheet versus the personal life balance sheet. So on the personal financial balance sheet, you list all your assets, whether it's you've got cash in the bank, you've got property, whatever it is, and your liabilities. And then you work out what are you actually worth at the end. And it's very easy because it's numbers, and you're a numbers person. That's why we love it, because it's like, I know the answer. You can define the answer very, very quickly. Then I throw it onto someone else and I go, okay, what happens if you had a personal life balance sheet? And in that there was quality of your relationships, your quality of your health. Are you working in something you're passionate about? Your strength of your community, your networks, your education, your level of fun, your free time, and then money is just one line item on that. Now, when you start thinking about that, you're like, well, money's just one part, so I need to actually make sure all these other areas are improving and going well. And you add up that, and then that measures your worth. So that's why I say your net worth is not equal to your net wealth, because your net worth is just your financial assets. It's just whether you have more assets than liabilities. But your net wealth is the combination of all the things that are important in our life, which I've just mentioned. And suddenly the conversation varies a lot, because you may be going really well in your net worth. You may have done so well, but because of that, you have been not focused on your health, so your health is breaking down. You haven't been spending time with your loved ones, so your relationships are breaking down, and you may not be spending time in the community. So you may have actually been increasing your net worth, but your net wealth has been decreasing over the last couple of years. And when your net wealth decreases, that's when we get into a state of a place of depression, or we potentially have that catastrophic event which like blows us up, and we're like, oh my God, I need to start focusing on my priorities.
So how do we do this?
So we start by actually, once again, going back to the thing we always talk about, our purpose and values. That becomes the guiding light for us, and it helps us make decisions. We then need to work out what is the optimal amount of finances we need to fund our different lifestyle, and how, yes, you may be earning more particular income in one area, but what's that detracting from in another area? And know that there is a finite amount of you that can be spread around. And having these conversations with yourself and going, well, is that extra $10,000 that I'm going to get by moving over to that other job opportunity really going to improve my net wealth? Because it may require me to work an extra 15 hours a week. It's something I'm not passionate about. It's going to require me to travel, so I'm going to be away from my family. So suddenly that $15,000, where if you just took it on the financial side, you'd be like, I'm going to take it every time, doesn't seem that appealing. And you're able to have the ability to make that tough decision go, actually, that's not that tough. It's a no-brainer. And often when people have gone through a catastrophic event, they come back and they've just got a different sense of perspective, because they're like, oh yeah, I know my priorities now. They are not my priorities. I don't need to worry about keeping up with the Joneses. What I care about is just spending time with my loved ones.
So this is coming back to the idea that progress for progress's sake needs to be thrown out the window. Mm-hmm. And we shouldn't be on autopilot. I've spoken about it a bit in terms of working through like accomplishments and milestones versus actual goals and purpose. It's about getting off the rat race?
Yeah, it is. And identifying that just because you're on this path doesn't mean it's the right path for you anymore. You may have just taken a little bit of a detour for a while, and you need to get back in line with what's important. So I have this analogy. I walked across Spain last year. I did a very ancient pilgrimage called the Camino de Santiago, 810 kilometers in a walk. And there's these little yellow arrows which point you in the direction of where to go. Now, it's really funny. You don't really have to pay attention to them. It's not like you're constantly looking. But what I found is as soon as you stop paying attention, you lose your way. And we all lose our way in life. There's certain times where you get a little bit distracted, you get caught up in the moment. And what I learned on the Camino was you can lose your way for a bit, but you want to make sure that at a certain point you're like, oh, have you seen a yellow arrow for a while? And you start having the conversation, no, I think we may have lost our way. And it's great if you can look over to your right and you see people way out in the distance. You're like, okay, that's clearly the path. And you can make the decision, well, do I need to go back where I started, or can I actually do a veering course mechanism for them? And often you can come back and you catch back up on the way and you're fine again. Where it's really hard is if you lose your way too much and you're way out and you can't see those people. Now you start getting in a bit of a panic, and often to get back is so hard. And it's that concept of when we look at like investing, people think when you lose 50%, you just need to get 50% back. When you lose 50%, you actually need to get 100% back. So it's double the effort to get back. So we want to make sure that we're correcting continuously. And that's the idea of like a living financial plan or a living path. Always just going, all right, what direction am I going and how do we optimize throughout the way? And the final bit, so we've lost our way, we've found a way. The final bit is making sure that you keep your way. And that's actually the hardest bit. Having awareness to go, oh, is this really what I want to be doing? Is this really important to me? Always asking these questions because it's very easy to slip back into that habit and then lose your way again.
So where do people struggle with this? Because it sounds simple.
We don't ask the questions. We don't ask the questions enough. We're humans, we like to go on autopilot. When you actually think about the amount of decisions that you make throughout the day, not many of them are conscious. Most of them are habitual and it's just happening without us realizing. So if we can get through I think it's something like, I think it's 88% of all decisions are made subconsciously. So that means only 12% of our actual decision-making ability is conscious. So we need to be very certain that the 12% is really good stuff. We're putting really good thoughts into our subconscious and it's what we actually want to achieve. And it's why when we have certain words in wealth enhancers, the team know, we don't say things like hopefully, we say we will. We don't say I think, like all these different areas, because we want to use strong words to show that we have conviction and we're actually making the decisions ourselves rather than letting our subconscious or society's pressures on us.
So how does this come back to money though? So you said right at the start, money can buy us happiness.
Mm-hmm. Great question. So it goes back into where we allocate our money actually contributes to our happiness. So there's some studies now that there's certain levels of income. Once you reach that, your marginal benefit of every dollar in towards happiness actually decreases. And in America, it's been like sort of a $70,000 salary, but now it's gone up to a joint income of like $105,000. Once you're above that, the whole idea that you think that money's going to directly buy you happiness by just extra earning dollars, it's not going to work. When you're below it, when we look at the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, often you're in a place where you're in that base level and you're in a place of survival and a need, and extra money does actually help that. So I'm not saying that money doesn't matter there. But where I go further on that is those extra dollars can make a difference if you're allocating it to things that are really important to you. And if you're earning $200,000 and I'm earning $100,000, you may seem like you've got more money, but if I'm actually allocating it to things that are really, really important to me, my happiness levels are going to be higher than yours if you're just spending it on materialistic objects.
Or perhaps it's cost me a lot of time and
Yes.
energy and stress to get that
Yeah.
extra.
And we see that a lot with our high-incoming professionals. They get in this trap. Corporates have been incredible at getting people in the trap. They woo the big salary, but they say you've got to sell your soul for 10 years and you've got to work 80 hours, and it's like, it's not worth it. And the funny thing is, we see that people make these decisions for money and then they don't end up having that much money in the future because they've then gone and spent money to try to improve their happiness on materialistic objects, which then we know it doesn't now. We get more rewarding factors out of experiences over materialistic objects. So if you were to spend the money on actually an experience with your partner, you'll get a better result than actually buying them a ring or something like that, because once it's there, we now take it for granted. Similar things with cars. It's like once you get on that car journey, you just want to keep getting the better car after a few weeks. So focusing on experiences is a really good way. Utilizing money to give you more time. So that's another big part of my keynote, is that we've had this saying now that time equals money. I disagree. Time doesn't equal money. If time equaled money, we wouldn't do some of the acts which are actually give us so much value, like spending some time to help a friend, or doing some charitable activities, or just actually sitting and meditating. That doesn't cost like that. If it was time with money, we'd be saying, well, let's just work more. So time is worth so much more than money. So if you can find ways to use your money to give you more time, then that's a really great way. I often think about what's one of the common fights in relationships. It's a messy house or something. And I'm like, you can fix that with money. Get a cleaner and you can actually do that. And it's why I say a lot of the times, like most things come back to money in some way. It's not that money will fix it, it's how you're utilizing that money.
So what do you think are some like really common, easy, well, not easy, but common hacks around purchasing some more time?
So really simple ones are outsourcing stuff at home. This is a great one for people who have the ability to earn extra income through their needs. And our generation, one of the great things about our generation is that we really do have the ability to always earn extra money. Like we encourage the side hustle, whether it's through freelancing, whether it's through a little side business, there's ways to earn more money. So if you can earn money, say you can earn at a rate of $50 an hour, if there's any task that you really don't like doing, and it's not saying that everyone doesn't like cleaning, some people really enjoy that, but if you can get a cleaner for $25 an hour, then you're winning. Like earn the $50 an hour doing something you actually enjoy, pay someone to do the $25, and suddenly you have $25 extra, which is a unit of time in that factor. So that's a good way.
I'm going to interrupt you. So I think the downfall to this, though, is that people take it too far. They start quantifying and saying, I've just had lunch with my in-laws and I don't really like them that much and that's actually cost me $200 if you base it off my hourly rate. Or is it worth spending that time with my children or whatever it might be?
So that's, once again, you can't just look at the money side on its own. You need to look at the benefits you get from spending time with your children or your in-laws. And sometimes it actually can be a good one. Sometimes we are spending time with people who we shouldn't be spending time with. Like we are the sum of the people around us. So if you're spending time with people who do not give you energy, then if you don't spend a time with them, you may have more energy and ability to earn more money anyway. So I really don't want to recommend putting it all just about the money. We need to live a balanced, holistic lifestyle. And people who say, oh, I don't need to spend time with my loved ones, wait till a loved one gets sick and you'll start realizing that you wish you'd actually spent more time with them. So there is a bit of a playbook for this.
I think an interesting space around this is preventative health and investing your money to look after your future time in terms of like your well-being, your physical health, your mental health, and looking after yourself now, spending some money on that so you've got more down the track.
Certainly. If we start thinking in these units of time, it starts getting really exciting because you're like, well, if I invest, I always say this in business, like if you can do a task that normally would take 5 minutes, but it takes you 30 minutes now to make it that only is taken 1 minute in the future, then that's a good investment of your time. Where a lot of the times we just get focused on, oh, I've just got to keep following the task list. So what are ways that you can actually buy yourself more time? And that's what I see investing is. Investing is buying you more time. If you get more connected to your investments to go, you know what, by living a little bit within my means now, not spending things on materialistic objects, which I know don't actually give me more happiness. Sometimes they detract from happiness because they remind you that you've wasted money on an object that you don't really care about. So anyone who has bikes sitting around, cameras, all these different areas that aren't being used, get them out of your house, like sell them for a little bit of money because they're detracting from your happiness. But if you start focusing on, all right, when I live within my means and I'm investing, I'm buying more time in the future. I'm buying myself that I can go, all right, I don't have to work for 2 years if I want. And I've written an article about that I think retirement is bullshit, that the modern day world is like mini sabbaticals, recharge. It's like working out. You don't just work out consistently the whole time. We do base training, we then do more high intensity, and then we do the race, and then we have a break again. And that's how you get the optimal use out of our bodies. Why aren't we doing that in the professional space as well?
Have you seen the movie In Time?
Is that the one with the time? Yeah.
Justin Timberlake.
Justin Timberlake. It's
Oh
such
my-
a good movie.
I refer to this movie. I've written a blog post about it. I love that movie.
Yeah.
I think that is the future.
It really is.
Maybe not in our lifetime, but at some point.
And then you might go, well, hey, is it worth me spending this time sitting here complaining, or is it better me just going out and doing something better? Is my time better spent outdoors, walking in nature, or is it just better sitting in front of the TV? It starts giving you really great decision-making abilities. And then you start working out, well, are there ways to optimize this? Could I actually do my connection with my loved one, my need to go into nature with new experiences, and just combine them all and go for a walk with a loved one and
don't spend any money.
Yeah.
Ultimate get rich slow.
And most of the really good things out there that people like remember and enjoy are free. I'm a big outdoors person, and I take so many people in skiing, into nature, into hikes, and most activities are free, and they're just like, oh wow, and I'm like, yeah, you can do this as well. So it gets exciting, and there's a really good article. There's actually a book written by this palliative care nurse where she actually interviewed hundreds of people before they were going to die. And she asked what were their biggest regrets. And then she summarized them all into like the 5 things that people regret that they didn't do more of. And there wasn't a single thing connected to money or like success or achievements. It was about wish they had taken bigger risks, wish they spent more time having fun, wish they spent more time spending time with their loved ones. And I recommend, we'll put it in the show notes to actually look at it. So if we start, and this goes back to that personal life balance sheet, if we start measuring our success by how well we're doing in all those areas, and money is just one area of it, we'll start living a more happy and authentic life. And that's the pullback, that's the connection with money, is that money just facilitates some of that stuff occurring.
You're saying nobody said, I wish I spent more time sitting in my office.
Yeah, it wasn't there. However, there was a lot of people who shared that they wished they'd spent time taking risk, working on that something they were really passionate about or what they cared about. It's not about not working. It's about just doing things that you really value.
I'm visualizing more around like paperwork.
Yeah.
That sort of admin. So if someone was to do something around this today, what would they do?
So what I would do is I'd write a list of those things that I mentioned in the personal life balance sheet. And I will share this in the notes, which is like spirituality, connections, community, purpose-driven work, health, financial. And I'll just start by doing a rating of 1 out of 10 of how good you feel in these particular areas. And then if there's certain low ones, work out how you can increase that. Is there a way that you can change your allocation of spending to start contributing some of these things? Are there things that, and this is another area I'd be looking at my budget and where my money's going and go, is this giving me the best bang for the buck? Do I really need that nicer car? Do I really need that nicer house? Or would it be a lot better to be able to have the freedom to have more holidays each year, or be able to have people working like doing housekeeping at home so I can spend more time with my loved ones?
I personally really enjoy cleaning my own house, not necessarily other places. I find it helps with my spirituality and my just sense of being. I find it quite a useful de-stressing activity.
It's completely right. And it's not about this is right or not. It's what's right for you and what's going to give you the best well-being.
So when we're talking about that rating on a score of 1 to 10, so it is relevant to you.
It is.
There's no... We've got to take the bullshit out of this, and it's not comparing to a social media lifestyle. It's saying, where does this sit for you? And is 10 optimal? Like awesome, killing it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 10 is killing it. 1 is like needs to be a lot of work. And it's so about ourselves. So I'll give you a good example of what's happened to myself. So I'm in this group called Entrepreneurs Organization, and we're in a forum, and we meet every month, and we share the deepest, darkest secrets, but also the best things. And I was going through this period where I didn't feel free. And it was like it took some like very strong experience shares from my loved ones in this group to realize that I was the most free. I was like pretty much the definition of a free man. Like I was 33-year-old, white, healthy, male, brought up in a really great country. I had financial assets. I had a great community. It was just in my mind that I wasn't free, but I was comparing myself to some of my friends who had $100 million. And I thought having more money would actually provide more freedom. And here is someone who lectures on this and has built whole companies about this. I still get trapped in it sometimes. And that's where asking the questions and reminding yourself and blocking out what everyone else is doing is really important.
So what are these questions? Take us back through it.
So the questions are, is where my money going valuable to me? Like, am I getting the best bang for my buck? Am I like going well in the different areas, like the list of 10? Am I living a true and authentic life? And am I happy? That's probably, if you had to sum it up, am I happy? Ask yourself that and see what comes up. And it can be quite emotional because a lot of the time you're not. And
is the follow through from that to say, if the answer is no to those questions, being prepared to make changes?
You've got to make changes. The first step for change is awareness. But once you know awareness and you don't make change, I just think you're a fool. Like, you need to make change. And it can be scary, but there's people out there who will help you on this journey.
We're on your team.
Yeah, we are.
We were talking before about progress for progress's sake, and sometimes we go in autopilot, right? How did I drive here? I don't know I was paying that much attention when I got here. So we see this quite commonly with our members around pay rises, and when they get it, their lifestyle goes up to this level and it's like they never had any sort of step up, or more commonly with people before they became members. So how does this fit into all of this?
So I love thinking back to your first job out of college or whatever it was. Suddenly you're earning some money and you felt so rich, didn't you? Like, we all remember that. It wasn't that long ago, but we felt so rich and so empowered. And now we may be earning 3, 4, 6 times more and we don't feel any richer. And that's because we've played into what I call one of the greatest things about humans is that we adapt, but it's also one of the worst things because we get on the hedonic treadmill. So what happens is we see something, we want it, so we buy it, and then we adapt and we just get in this thing and we want the next good thing. So what happens with, I always give this analogy of like your lifestyle, what's changed from college. At college, you used to sometimes meet with friends, drink wine, have dinner, go out and come home. Still, these days, what are we doing? We meet with friends, we drink wine, we go out, we have a good dinner, and we come home. The difference was, back then it might have been $20, now it might be a $500 night. The actual experience is pretty much the same. A lot of the time now, we're actually going, oh my God, I used to have so much more fun then. So it's because the experience is the same, but the difference is, instead of the $5 bottle of wine, we're now drinking a $100 bottle of wine. Or instead of the $10 dumplings, we're now having the $500 degustation menu. So we need to get back to the core of the actual experience and question, do we really need to go for that higher expense? And this is why we love working with people when they're a bit younger, because we can say, okay, we know this, you're going to get on the hedonic treadmill and you're going to get trapped on the hamster wheel of life, the rat race of life. We need to correct you before you fall into that trap. So suddenly when you're about to, you start seeing the new thing, we go, hang on, we've been here before. You don't need that new thing. It's not going to bring you that much happiness. However, we know that having more time or having more experiences, whether now or in the future, is going to bring you a lot more happiness. So we're able to pull it back in.
So if we're on the treadmill, if we're walking the wrong way on the escalator, how do we get off without falling off?
Oh, it's first you even need to know, are you on the wrong treadmill? You need to be asking your friends, this is sometimes where looking on the internet is really good, because sometimes people are living a life and they start making you question the life you live. So first, awareness. and then be able to actually take stock of where you're at and what are the things that are potentially
your weaknesses.
Your little weaknesses. Whether it's like some people are
Suck out your
clothes,
money.
some people it's cars, some people it's wanting to seem like the big person in town and shouting all their friends. Just work out what are the things which are stopping you, and don't try to change everything at once. Just do one little change, and then a habit takes, like, there's a great book, The Power of Habit, which teaches you how to make new habits, because you can't actually change your old habit. You need to make new ones which are stronger, and it requires like 21 plus days of consistent work to be able to do it.
I'm very pleased to say that I'm just gone past a month brushing my teeth with my other hand, so it can be done.
Really?
Yep.
Just worried about your gums not being aligned?
No, it was around neural pathways.
Love it.
Preparing for dementia at the other end.
I love it. And that's where, like, being around kids are really good sometimes, because they just question everything, they shake things up, and they just make you see a different view on life. Same with travel. Travel is really good because you start seeing, hang on, that person's living a really great life and I know they're not earning that much income.
Absolutely. And when I first started brushing, my toothbrush went up my nose a couple of times, but now, no blood.
Spot on.
Killing it.
And that's why one of our values at We is get rich slow, and we share all the little tips and hacks of how you can live life a little bit differently. So look out for the get rich slow tips.
Start small, build it up, you'll get there.
Yep.
Well, thank you very much for watching this week's episode of WEtv. We all have money, so let's all be happy. Now, if you want to make sure you don't miss out on this or any other fun stuff from the Wealth Enhancers team, make sure you subscribe to our channel. Are you laughing at me, Zoe?
Don't fuck it up.
You don't know.
5-1.
Oh my God. Nice. 3 done.